Continuing the lineage of great Celtics big men, Dave Cowens played the game with a fury. As a scorer, rebounder, and rabid defender, a league most valuable player, he helped lead Boston to 2 titles in 1974 and 76.
Dave Cowens, when he was drafted, why is Red Auerbach drafting this guy from Florida State and he needs a center? Well, you found out real quick. No one played with more intensity and commitment in the game of basketball than Dave Cowens.
And look at Cowens hustle on the D. He is like a man possessed out there.
I remember the first time I played against him. I remember Heinsohn had told me just how tough a player he was. I was coming back from an injury, and I figured I would, try him out. So I remember jumping on his back for an offensive rebound, and Cowens almost knocked me out. Okay, and we were in practice, and I got the message really clearly that he was not going to put up with that from his teammates in practice, and he certainly didn't put up with it in the actual games.
Blocked by Cowens.
Tenacious basketball player, ran the court. That's where he had an asset over a lot of big players that he played against. He could outrun them, outjump them, And to me, Dave's, I think Dave at one time got tired of basketball, and then he started driving a cab for about a year or so. But you got to know Dave. Great guy, man. I love the man.
Dave Cowens was, I remember the 74 finals, the 76 finals, watching him on TV, begging my mom that I could stay up in 74 to watch the finals, which was tape delayed in Minnesota. And I had to stay up till 12:30 to watch the game. And loved Dave Cowens.
Dave Cowens, you had to try to shade because you knew he was tougher than you. You knew he was stronger than you. I remember the first time playing against Cowens, shaking his hand at half court. He takes his jersey out and spits in his jersey and rubs it in his chest. I'm like, what? This guy doesn't care about himself. What does he care about me?
Cowens has been a reign of terror here so far.
Standing at 6'9", Dave Cowens was first viewed as undersized at the 5, but another sub-7-foot center gave him that stamp of approval.
Well, Bill Russell told the Celtics, hey, draft this guy to Florida State. He hustles. And if I told you there was a player in the NBA that grabbed 32 rebounds in one game, had a lifetime career average of 13 rebounds a game, you say, oh, that's pretty good, pretty good for that time, particularly in the golden age of centers. And then if I said, well, that player is only 6'9", you're like, whoa, that's really good. And Dave Cowens made up for his height with hustle. Both ends of the floor, grabbed rebounds, ran the floor very well, passed the ball very well, was named the NBA MVP in 1973, won 2 championships with the Celtics. Now, this was after the Bill Russell era in the 1970s.
So the one-time 4th overall pick had some interesting work alternatives to basketball.
Well, when you think about it, he was a little bit of a different guy. Just for kicks, he decided to drive a taxi cab in Boston. Now, he paid the $35 fee, he had several runs that night, and nobody recognized him. Maybe it was because he wasn't tall enough. And then, months after winning the 1976 championship, he felt kind of burnt out, so he left the Celtics 8 games into the following season. Can you imagine that? He went home to the family farm in Kentucky and sold Christmas trees. Then he got bored doing that, came back to the Celtics, and led them to the playoffs that year.
Wow, the walking double-double for the C's consistently delivered gifts for that franchise.
Well, I remember when we were playing the Cleveland Cavs in the playoffs, and they had a big front line of Nate Thurman and Jimmy Jones and Brewer. And really, for 2 or 3 games, they had really, been very competitive. The series was tied at 2-2, and we went in the locker room, and coaches always like to give, pregame talk and strategy and all those things. And Tommy Heinsohn got up to give the strategy of how we were going to play the game and how we were going to play each guy. And Dave just stood up and said, you know what, Tommy, this is what it is. I got this guy, John got this guy, Paul got this guy, Charlie got this guy, and Joe got this guy. We each beat our guy playing, and we'll win the game.
Lob pass, Cowens inside of Lambert. Inside to Cowens. Into the lane. Jump hook.
And that's what we went out there and did. And that's how we played the game. The idea that we each would beat out the individual that we were playing against, and we would win the game. And that's the type of individual he was.